Hello, I'm glad you're here. I'm Natsman, and I'm reading the Bible from the beginning to the end. This is video number 17. Please join me in this journey and make God's Word a part of your everyday life. Today we're reading from the book of Genesis, starting in chapter 49. But before we start, I do want to do a short recap of what we read in the last video. In Genesis 46, it began with Jacob, Israel, setting out for Egypt after learning Joseph is alive. God speaks to Jacob in a vision, reassuring him not to fear the move, and God promises to make him a great nation there and to bring him back up again. Jacob takes his whole family, 70 people in all, to Egypt. There's a genealogy listed of Jacob's descendants, and when they arrive, Joseph is reunited with his father in a very emotional scene. Joseph tells them he'll speak to Pharaoh and advise his family to say they are shepherds so that they'll be allowed to live in the land of Goshen. In Genesis 47, Joseph introduces 5 of his brothers and Jacob to Pharaoh. Pharaoh grants them the land of Goshen, and Jacob blesses Pharaoh. As the famine grows more severe, people run out of money, livestock, and eventually land, and Joseph takes these in exchange for food, making Pharaoh very powerful. Still, Joseph ensures the Israelites prosper in Goshen, and at the end of the chapter, Jacob makes Joseph swear to bury him in Canaan and not in Egypt. In Genesis 48, Jacob becomes ill, and Joseph brings his 2 sons, Manasseh and Ephraim, to see him. Jacob recalls God's promise and adopts the 2 boys as his own, giving them equal status with his sons. When blessing them, Jacob crosses his arms, giving the greater blessing to Ephraim, the younger, over Manasseh, the older, despite Joseph's protests. Jacob explains this is God's will. Ephraim will become greater. Jacob again reminds Joseph that God will bring them back to the land promised to their ancestors. With that, we will start in chapter 49. Chapter 49. Jacob called to his sons and said, "Gather yourselves together, that I may tell you that which will happen to you in the days to come. Assemble yourselves and hear, you sons of Jacob. Listen to Israel, your father. Reuben, you are my firstborn, my might, and the beginning of my strength. Excelling in dignity and excelling in power, boiling over like water, you shall not excel. Because you went up to your father's bed, then defiled it, he went up to my couch. Simeon and Levi are brothers. Their swords are weapons of violence. My soul, don't come into their council. My glory, don't be united to their assembly. For in their anger they killed men. In their self-will they hamstrung cattle. Cursed be their anger, for it was fierce, and their wrath, for it was cruel. I will divide them in Jacob and scatter them in Israel. Judah, your brothers will praise you. Your hand will be on the neck of your enemies. Your father's sons will bow down before you. Judah is a lion's cub. From the prey, my son, you have gone up. He stooped down. He crouched as a lion, as a lioness. Who will rouse him up? The scepter will not depart from Judah, nor the ruler's staff from between his feet, until he comes to whom it belongs. The obedience of the peoples will be to him, binding his foal to the vine, his donkey's colt to the choice wine, his donkey's colt to the choice vine. He has washed his garments in wine, his robes in the blood of grapes. His eyes will be red with wine, his teeth white with milk. Zebulun will dwell in the haven of the sea. He will be for a haven of ships. His border will be on Sidon. Issachar is a strong donkey lying down between the saddlebags. He saw a resting place, that it was good, the land, that it was pleasant. He bows his shoulders to the burden and becomes a servant doing forced labor. Dan will judge his people as one of the tribes of Israel. Dan will be a serpent on the trail, an adder in the path that bites the horse's heels, so that his rider falls backwards. I have waited for your salvation, Yahweh. A troop will press on Gad, and he will press on their heel. Asher's food will be rich. He will produce royal dainties. Naphtali is a doe set free who bears beautiful fawns. Joseph is a fruitful vine. His branches run over the wall. The archers will have severely grieved him, shot at him and persecuted him, but his bow remained strong. The arms of his hands were made strong by the hands of the mighty one of Jacob. From there is the shepherd, the stone of Israel, even by the God of your father, who will help you, by the Almighty, who will bless you with blessings of heaven above, blessings of the deep that lies below, blessings of the beasts and of the womb. The blessings of your father have prevailed above the blessings of my ancestors, above the boundaries of the ancient hills. They will be on the head of Joseph, on the crown of the head of him who is separated from his brothers. Benjamin is a ravenous wolf. In the morning he will devour the prey. At evening he will divide the plunder. All these are the 12 tribes of Israel, and this is what their father spoke to them and blessed them. He blessed everyone according to his own blessing. He instructed them and said to them, I will be gathered to my people. Bury me with my fathers in the cave that is in the field of Ephron the Hittite, in a cave that is in the field of Machpelah, which is before Mamre, in the land of Canaan, which Abraham bought with the field from Ephron the Hittite as a burial place. There they buried Abraham and Sarah his wife. There they buried Isaac and Rebekah his wife, and there I buried Leah. The field and the cave that is therein, which was purchased from the children of Heth. When Jacob finished charging his sons, he gathered up his feet into the bed, breathed his last breath, and was gathered to his people. That concludes 49. Now 50. Joseph fell on his father's face, wept on him, and kissed him. Joseph commanded his servants, the physicians, to embalm his father, and the physicians embalmed Israel. 40 days were used for him, for that is how many days it takes to embalm. The Egyptians wept for Israel for 70 days. When the days of weeping for him were past, Joseph spoke to Pharaoh's staff, saying, If now I have found favor in your eyes, please speak in the ears of Pharaoh, saying, My father made me swear, saying, Behold, I am dying. Bury me in my grave, which I have dug for myself in the land of Canaan. Now therefore, please let me go up and bury my father, and I will come again. Pharaoh said, Go up and bury your father, just like he made you swear. Joseph went up to bury his father, and with him went up all the servants of Pharaoh, the elders of his house, all the elders of the land of Egypt, all the house of Joseph, his brothers, and his father's house. Only their little ones, their flocks and their herds, they left in the land of Goshen. Both chariots and horsemen went up with them. It was a very great company. They came to the threshing floor of Atad, which is beyond the Jordan, and there they lamented with a very great and severe lamentation. He mourned for his father 7 days. When the inhabitants of the land, the Canaanites, saw the mourning in the floor of Atad, they said, This is a grievous mourning by the Egyptians. Therefore its name was called Abel Mizraim, which is beyond the Jordan. His sons did to him just as he commanded them. For his sons carried him into the land of Canaan and buried him in the cave of the fields of Machpelah, which Abraham bought with the field as possession for a burial site from Ephron the Hittite, near Mamre. Joseph returned into Egypt, he and his brothers, and all that went up with him to bury his father, after he had buried his father. When Joseph's brothers saw that their father was dead, they said, It will be that Joseph will hate us, and will fully pay us back for all the evil which we did to him. They sent a message to Joseph, saying, Your father commanded before he died, saying, You shall tell Joseph, Now please forgive the disobedience of your brothers and their sin, because they did evil to you. Now please forgive the disobedience of the servants of the God of your father. Joseph wept when they spoke to him. His brothers also went and fell down before his face, and they said, "Behold, we are your servants." Joseph said to them, "Don't be afraid, for am I in the place of God? As for you, you meant evil against me, but God meant it for good, to save many people alive, as is happening today. Now therefore, don't be afraid. I will provide for you and your little ones." He comforted them, and he spoke kindly to them. Joseph lived in Egypt, he and his father's house. Joseph lived 110 years. Joseph saw Ephraim's children to the third generation. The children also of Malchir, the son of Manasseh, were born on Joseph's knees. Joseph said to his brothers, "I am dying, but God will surely visit you and bring you up out of this land to the land which he swore to Abraham, to Isaac, and to Jacob." Joseph took an oath from the children of Israel, saying, "God will surely visit you, and you shall carry up my bones from here." So Joseph died, being 110 years old, and they embalmed him, and he was put in a coffin in Egypt. And that concludes chapter 50, and that concludes the book of Genesis. To recap the last two chapters of Genesis, Genesis 49 records Jacob's final words to his sons before his death. He gathers them to speak prophetic blessings or judgments over each one. Reuben, his firstborn, is rebuked for his instability and past sin. Simeon and Levi are condemned for their violence. Judah, however, receives a powerful blessing. His line is praised as royal and a ruler, a prophecy appointed to the Messiah, which will come from him. The other sons receive various blessings tied to their future tribes. Joseph is especially honored for his faithfulness and fruitfulness despite suffering, and Jacob acknowledges God's hand in his life. After finishing his blessings, Jacob commands to be buried with his ancestors in the cave of Machpelah in Canaan, and then he dies. In Genesis 50, Joseph weeps over his father and orders an elaborate embalming and seeks Pharaoh's permission to bury Jacob in Canaan. A large entourage travels for the burial, and they mourn deeply. Afterward, Jacob's brothers fear he might now take revenge for their past betrayal, but Joseph reassures them with powerful words, "You meant it for evil, but God meant it for good." He promises to care for them and their families, and the book closes with Joseph's own death. He lives to 110. He sees his great-grandchildren, and before dying, he asks that his bones be carried back to the promised land one day, trusting in God's promises. And that completes the book of Genesis, an incredible journey from creation to covenant to the foundations of Israel. I want to thank you for joining me in this endeavor to read the entire Bible. I hope you enjoyed listening as much as I enjoyed reading it. The next video will be a summary of the entire book of Genesis. Please feel free to comment if you so desire. Also, please subscribe and give this a big thumbs up if you enjoyed it. I hope you come back for the next video, and until then, thank you. I hope you have a very blessed day. I'm Natsman, and I'm out.